We were feeling a little stuck, a little trapped as a family in the life that we were living and the work we were doing and where we were just we wanted to have a little more control in our lives, and we just felt like it wasn't possible. And we realized that a lot of that was coming from the excuses that we were making about why we could not get unstuck. So today we're going to talk about excuses. Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. My name is Emily Orton.
I am Erik Orton.
And on this podcast, we talk about personal development and family connections and raising adult kids. That's where we are in life. We don't have all the answers, but we are on the hunt.
We got 5 kids. Most of them are adults. And so we're just happy to be a part of this conversation about this stage of life.
And today I want to bring us back a few years because March is the month 5 years ago that our book came out. It's called 7 at Sea, Why a New York City Family Cast Off Convention for a Life-Changing Year on a Sailboat. And we learned a lot of things on this experience that have become part of our practice, life philosophy, and what we teach or speak about. And so today we want to talk about some of those excuses that were keeping us stuck when we were in that little 800 square foot apartment with our 5 young kids. And you were in a job that you didn't like. And maybe you want to tell about that. I don't want to speak for you.
Well, I think, I don't want to misrepresent it because I think there were lots of things that we wanted to change about our lives, but we were also very happy.
Yeah, I think it's important to say because we practiced gratitude and we were in good relationship there.
Because it wasn't like this was not coming from a place of feeling sorry for ourselves.
We weren't Oliver Twist.
We had a comfortable place to live. We had plenty of food to eat. We had friends. We had a big park across the street. We loved our neighborhood, a lot of things about our neighborhood. We were living in New York City. And so there are obviously some drawbacks, but also some really huge bonuses. And we loved our snug life in our little apartment. And, we didn't love everything about it, but yeah, this wasn't coming from a place of desperation or a desire to just escape from everything.
We weren't running from, we were running to.
Yeah. And I think that's an important distinction to make. And so just that, and I had a job that was fine. There were what I'll sort of joke about, some soul sucking aspects of it where it just wasn't terribly fulfilling, but it wasn't awful. It was a perfectly fine job and it paid our bills, and we, and I got to see my family, and we had, so it was a good life. It was a good life. What I think is the crux of it is that it wasn't our best life. And there was room to grow. There was room to level up. And so, what is the adage? Good is the enemy of best. And we're still on our way there. But does that speak to what you're asking about?
I think that we were a happy family, but almost daily, multiple times a week, you would call and tell me how much you did not like your job and you wanted to get out of there. And we just saw our kids were growing up and they were going to move out, and we just felt like maybe there was more for us, and we were searching around for what is that? What is this discontent at the same time as we felt grateful for so many good things that were happening. We had this discontent. Anyway, we're talking about excuses. And so we realized that we had a bunch of excuses, and it came up because Erik had this idea for the more that he wanted in our life, or the change that he was hoping to make. And it all centered around this idea of living on a sailboat. I won't go into all the details. Obviously, we wrote a whole book about it called 7 at Sea, and the emotional journey and the physical journey for our family to make it to that point, because we had no experience on boats and we had to start from scratch to learn how to do it. And it was a financial challenge. to make those things happen. So then Erik had this idea of like, oh, I would love to live on a sailboat for a year. And we realized as soon as we had that idea, it felt very exciting and like, oh, wouldn't that be amazing, right? But that we came up with immediately, like right up alongside it, sprang up all these excuses for not doing it. And yeah,
Can we
you can list
enumerate
some
some
of
of
them.
those?
Yeah, go for it.
I think one of them was obviously we didn't know how to sail.
Yeah, well,
didn't know anything about boats, and in a lot of ways still don't. Didn't grow up around, I thought, you had to grow up around boats to like have permission to get on one or something.
Yeah, we didn't have permission for sure.
Nobody had given us permission to get on a boat. So there was that obstacle.
We hadn't been invited.
We also didn't know how we would pay for boating, sailing, like lessons or buying a boat, let alone a trip that lasted a year. We didn't know how to pay for it. So there's that excuse.
Yeah, so we probably shouldn't do it.
Being too poor.
We shouldn't look into it.
Yeah, probably shouldn't look at it. And the other is, we have 5 kids. 5 kids between the ages of 6 to 16.
I mean, at the time we had the idea, we had 5 kids between the ages of 2 and 12.
Okay. Yeah, even better, because...
Oh, and wait, our baby had Down syndrome. Our baby was having seizures. Like, we can't go anywhere. And what about our friends? Like, we have these friends, we have this community. Like, these people care about us, and we're just going to like leave, and new people will come in, and then we won't have friends anymore.
All that. And, I also knew that if we ever did something like this, it would mean financial ruin, because who hires a guy, like even if we made it out alive, when we come back, who hires a guy who just took off a year to go sail with his family? Clearly he's irresponsible and not clear thinking.
Yeah. What if we did get in an accident and something happened to any of us?
Yeah.
Like, how would we handle that? Where are the doctors? Are you just out there on the ocean?
How do you get medical insurance, or do they even have medicine out there?
And where are we going to buy food? And just we probably shouldn't even think about this.
Yeah, this was a dumb idea. Let's just
go back to our regular life.
Whatever. Okay, so we're obviously doing a little bit of tongue in cheek here. So have any of these excuses ever crept up for you in your mind when you've thought of or imagined something that was more, or I'll just say different from what you're doing now? Do some of these obstacles or excuses just come to mind easily? Because they sure did for us.
Yeah, we don't have the money. We don't have the time. We don't have the experience. We're not in the right life situation, or this kid has a really good group of friends, or, this kid has the therapists, right, that we need right now. And we just don't want to mess up a good thing.
Okay. So what happened, Emily? We had all these excuses.
Oh, we did this practice, and you have to be so brave to do this.
Where did we come across this?
We made it up.
We're in the 4th grade.
We did this. Yeah. If you've ever seen Dan in real life, this is one of our favorite quotes. The daughter says, "I'm in the 4th grade. I can make things up." And you can make things up too. And this is what we made up for ourselves. We did this little practice. I think you'll also find this if you have ever heard of Byron Katie. She does something similar. She calls the work. But this, we didn't know about her, and we just did this. We created a whole list of excuses, like all the obstacles, all the reasons that we thought meant we cannot go, we cannot entertain an idea like this because of this whole list of excuses. And then we took every single one of those excuses and rewrote them as a reason to go on this trip. So, for example, you might say, well, we have 5 kids. We can't go on a trip like this. And we said, what would be turning it into a reason?
Because we have 5 kids, we must go on this trip.
Yeah, exactly. We must go on this trip. And then we had reasons like, this is going to bond us as a family. And this is the special time that we have together before they leave home. And we started justifying our wants to ourselves. But we don't have to get too deep into that.
But maybe it should be, because we have 5 kids, we must go on this trip because ... And then you
Yeah.
can add all those reasons because this is going to be so, why is this going to be great for them? Why is this going to be great for us? And get into that space of, we need to do this because, and just do the exact opposite thinking. Like, we can't afford this. We must go on this trip because in the process we will learn the financial skills or the financial mindset that will change our lives forever. And
Yeah,
so,
because we need to figure out those skills for how to afford things. Or I think one of the ones that is probably like really easy to understand, for example, is like, we cannot go on this trip because we have a child with special needs. And they said we must go on this trip because we have a child with special needs, because this is going to help her have concrete experiences in the world. And that's how she learns. Like, it's especially going to be good for her to go out and see and touch the world and meet the people in it. And so um, that's kind of how it works. Might be like, I can't live on a sailboat because I have 5 kids. And then you might rewrite it as, I want to live on a sailboat because I have 5 kids. Whatever it is, we're just using our sailboat examples because we are thinking about the things that we learned as we prepared our minds and our hearts and our finances and our
our friendships,
and just like our packing lists and everything, our home, everything, to be able to actually do something like that. And this month is the 5-year anniversary of our memoir about that experience coming out. So we're just kind of reviewing some of the things that the ways of thinking or the little tools for handling obstacles that helped us get out on the boat and transform as a family. If you're watching the YouTube version of this, Erik is holding up a copy of the book with our family all on a tiny boat learning how to
see our
sail.
kids when they were little. This is when we started learning how to
Big
sail.
fat orange life vests.
Okay.
But this has been a big one. And it really is. Every time I start to feel some resistance to something and I start to tell myself why I can't do something, I remember this practice of turning an excuse not to into a reason to do it. And I still get to choose, how I'm going to act and what decisions I'm going to make. That just help loosen up some knots in my brain to make room for these good things to flow into my life. As you rewrite your excuses into reasons, this is a perfect time to use the eponymous podcast title question, what could go right? So if you're coming up against some obstacles, we would definitely recommend you try this. It's fine if you just work it out in your mind or say it out loud to the people you're doing life with, but it's super powerful to write them down.
Is it okay if I pivot to sailing?
Oh yeah. Well, we're talking about sailing like that. Asking, like, turning those excuses into reasons and asking what could go right and filling out that list, like the number of reasons why we should go just got so huge. We were like, we cannot afford to miss this window of opportunity. We have to figure out how to make it work. And we did. And Seven at Sea tells about that journey. That's why it's called Why a New York City Family Cast Off Convention.
As opposed to how.
This is not a how-to book. This is like why it was worth the effort to us to overcome all those obstacles, mostly in our minds.
So I'm not trying to strong arm anybody, or when I say this, or throw anybody under the bus, but I talk to a lot of people about going sailing on these trips that we're offering this year. And it's always a delight. Every conversation is a delight, whether people decide to go or not. And
yeah, if you're new to the podcast, one of the things that we offer now is that we take other people sailing. You can try out living on a sailboat, not for a whole year, but for a week.
You can go out for a week. It can be a group of people that you put together, or you can book a cabin and go out with other like-minded people that want to try living on the water. And so when I talk with people, a lot of times they might say, oh, I can't afford it. Totally fine. Or I can't go because I get seasick. Totally fine. I can't go because I have high school age kids. and they're busy with sports and other things. Or I can't go because I have little kids and I can't find babysitting. Or I can't go because I have, you know, a frail parent that we're caring for. And these are all very legitimate reasons to not do something. I'm not trying to say that. Every now and then somebody will say, we want to figure out how to afford this. Or I want to give my high school kids an opportunity to have some independence and grow into an experience where we may not be around. Or kind of thinking back to a previous episode with the Kill Packs, where they left on a long trip and they left their young kids at home, and how that was so good for them and their relationships with extended family. And so I would just invite you to consider, whether it's going sailing or anything else that you might want to do, just think about all your reasons why you'll tell yourself you can't. And then just consider, play a game and say, what if I just flipped this and said, because I get seasick, I need to go sailing. Not because you want to get seasick, but it gives you a chance to face it and decide whether it's
as big of a problem as you think it is.
Maybe it's not as bad as you think it is, or you want to learn how to overcome it, because if you can overcome that, then what else is possible in your life, or what other opportunities open up? Or I'm caring for an aging parent, and the reason I need to go is because if I don't, I'll burn out and I'll start to resent them. And, I'm making stuff up here.
No, it's true though. And I remember when Erik first talked about learning how to sail, I had a deep fear of deep water. And I was really scared about the concept of even getting on to a boat in the water. And he said, well, that's like the perfect reason to learn how to sail, because then you never have to get in the water. You can always stay in the boat and you'll feel comfortable and you'll know what you're doing. And I eventually did push into that fear of deep water. And now I scuba and snorkel and sometimes attempt surfing and things like that. And I love it. And I can't believe all the years that I went not enjoying like 70% of the planet because I was afraid of deep water. And I was really grateful that you kind of nudged me to take a little step forward. But it is true. If it's something that you don't want to do, that's easy. Just be like, I just don't want to do that. If you're saying to yourself, I can't do that, then I like this little bit of challenge to say, what might be the reasons to figure it out? And not even just about coming sailing with us, which is such a great experience and so fun and kind of mind expanding and just rejuvenating for everybody who comes. But for whatever it is that you're telling yourself, I can't do that, that indicates that maybe you want to. And so it might be helpful if you say like, I should do this because of these reasons and what could go script. Right. Yeah.
So if you want to go sailing, let's talk. Hit the link in the show notes. It's also our website /sailing 2024. Happy to look at a private trip for you and a small group, or see if booking a cabin is a good fit for you. Anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to tell a really short story. This is with regard to excuses and reasons, and exactly what you were saying is that we had a couple that wanted to come sailing, but they were the full-time caregivers for an aging parent, and they flipped that into a reason, exactly like Erik said. And they said, we are going to get burned out. And they came out on that trip, and it allowed them to completely refresh and reset their marriage. And they not only did they go back into that care situation refreshed and full of energy to give love to their aging parent, but they also had that time to reimagine like the next 15 to 20 years for them as they moved out of the workforce and into retirement. And they got very clear on their goals, and they felt so excited about the future when they went back, because they stepped out of the pressure routine they were in and recharged themselves. And yeah, it was really awesome for them.
So, food for thought. Thanks for listening.
What could go right?